Good morning and welcome to National Assembly live broadcast. You're watching this broadcast courtesy of the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit. This is in collaboration with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. A lot has been lined up for the order of business this morning. And my name is Gladys Mungai Iloso. Let's start by having a look at the order of business this morning. And a couple of bills are set to be tabled before the floor of the House. The first bill is by Honorable Alice Wahome on the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 28 of 2020. And the memorandum of the bill seeks to amend the Health Act number 21 of 2017. This is to provide for male circumcision, that it shall be performed under medically safe and hygienic conditions. The bill also seeks to regulate the practice by ensuring that male circumcision is performed by trained as well as registered persons. The second bill is by Honorable Member Gideon Keter on matters Higher Education Loans Board, Bill number 29 of 2020. And the bill by the nominated MP seeks to amend the Higher Education Loans Bill Act. This is to waive the imposition of interest on the principal amount of loan advanced to the youth as well as persons with disability until such a time they've secured their first employment. Secondly, the bill seeks to set the percentage of interest that may be charged on loans advanced at 3%. It also seeks to provide that penalty charged on defaulting loan shall be charged after securing employment or after 5 years upon completion of studies. The House is equally set to debate or consider the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill by Honorable Gladys Wanga. The Public Service Commission Bill, a National Assembly's Bill number 27 of 2019, is also set to be debated. Also lined up for debate in this morning's session is the National Assembly Disasters Management Authority Bill, Bill number 10 of 2019, by Honorable Kimani Chungwa. The Crops Amendment Bill, National Assembly's Bill number 25 of 2019, as well as the Alcoholics Drinks Bill, National Assembly's Bill number 70 of 2019, by Honorable Silvana Sosoro, has also been lined up for debate in this morning session. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Orders number 42A, subsection 5, Members of Parliament will be fielding questions for reply before specified departmental committees. Member for Nakuru Town East, Honorable David Gikaria, will be asking the Cabinet Secretary for Education to explain why the presidential directive to all secondary school heads to release KCSE certificates as well as seek compensation of fees arrears from the Ministry of Education is being disregarded by school heads. The Honourable Member will equally be seeking answers on what the Ministry is doing to ensure school heads comply with the said presidential directive, as well as what action is being taken against school principals / headmasters who continue to treat this directive with contempt. Those particular questions will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Education, as well as Matters Research. Honourable for Westlands, Honourable Tim Wanyonyi, will be asking the Cabinet Secretary, this is for ICT, Innovation and Matters Youth Affairs, to explain the measures put in place to protect personal data of mobile phone users. This is upon a mobile number being declared dormant by a mobile service provider and allocated to a new subscriber. The MP will be seeking to understand whether the state has any other plans to classify mobile phone users as personal property owned by a customer and capable of being transferred or inherited, considering the advanced use of mobile technology. Those particular questions will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Technology. You can watch this broadcast live on YouTube as well as on KBC Channel 1 and on Bunge TV. Honourable Member for Manyata, Honourable John Mushiri, will be asking the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure as well as Urban Development to explain the status of the construction of Mudhatari Kimangaru Road in Manyata constituency to bitumen standards despite preliminary work having been done. Also, the Honourable Member will be seeking to understand the cause of the delay of the said road, and those particular questions will be replied by the Public Transport Works and Housing Departmental Committee. The Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honourable Moses Cheboy, has stepped into the chamber. I'll now hand you over for the live broadcast. My name is Gladys Mungai. Enjoy your viewing.
Honourable members, let's pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled. Grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of all those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Honourable members, I can confirm that we have the required quorum both within the chamber and in the holding chamber. So we will begin business.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Under that particular order, we have the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Is the chairperson in? Again, the chairperson, Transport, Public Works and Housing Committee.
Afternoon, I'm not.
Okay, then we will go to the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
On that particular order, we will start with questions, ordinary questions, and to start us off is the member for Nakuru Town East, Honourable Gikaria.
Sorry, Honourable Speaker, I'm just looking for the question.
Where are you looking it from?
Honourable question. Honourable Speaker, this one is giving me. Let me read from my phone. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Gikaria, just a minute. Just a minute, take your seat.
Na mimi hata siku nafikia tutaenda haraka hivyo. Unajua Muturi akiwa hapa hii kitu ina delay kidogo. Huyu jamaa ndio. Sema maneno.
Honorable Gikaria, hold on. I'm trying to see if we have actually skipped some particular items. So hold on briefly. Let us first, can I confirm whether the chair, Transport, Public Works is here? So we will go to order number 6 and give the Honorable Kapondi an opportunity to give up notice. Honorable Kapondi, you have the floor. I do not know. Your card doesn't seem to reflect.
It is there, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that pursuant to the provision of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraph 5(2) and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 3 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, October 6th, not 6th, Chairman, but 7th, 2020. 1, Kuria East, 2, Shinyalu, and 3, Emugwen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. On the same order, let's have that is the one you have just done, isn't it? The one would have been by the Honorable Abunyinyi. So we will go to the next order. And therefore, ask the Honorable Gikaria to take the floor. That order had been called already.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to ask question number 130 of 2020, addressed to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why presidential directive to all secondary schools heads to release the KCSE certificates and seek for compensation of the fees arrears from the Ministry of Education is being disregarded by school heads? 2, what is the ministry doing to ensure school heads comply with the said presidential directive? And 3, what action is being taken against the school principals or headmasters who continue to treat this directive with contempt? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then we will go to the next member for Westlands, Honorable Tim Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask question number 236 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. Question 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures put in place to protect personal data of mobile phone users upon a mobile number being declared dormant by a mobile service provider and allocated to a new subscriber? Number 2, what additional measures are put in place by the mobile service providers to protect the new subscribers from being followed by liabilities of the previous subscribers, such as demands for settlement of the mobile loan debts held by the previous subscriber? 3, could the Cabinet Secretary state whether there are any plans to classify mobile phone numbers as personal property owned by the customer and capable of being transferred or inherited, considering the advanced use of mobile telephony in financial transactions, mobile banking, and its recognition on the e-citizen platform to access and transact various government services? Roman 4, could the Cabinet Secretary outline the measures put in place to record, store, secure, and later destroy all personal data, including mobile phone contacts collected under conduct tracing for the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. So we go to the member for Ganze, Honorable Teddy Mwambire.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have the pleasure to ask question number 264 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Energy. Roman 1, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of electricity connectivity in Ganze constituency, indicating the number of public schools, health centers, and trading centers that are yet to be connected with electricity? Roman 2, when will the said schools and trading centers be connected, particularly Muriachakwe Primary School, Muriachakwe Dispensary, and Muriachakwe Trading Center, despite poles having been erected in 2002? Roman 3, why was the transformer at Ndugumnani Trading Center in Mahera location in Vitengen Division removed on 13th December 2019, and when will it be replaced? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Now, I realize I did not refer the specific questions to particular. So the first one, which was asked by Honorable Gikaria, will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. The second one, which was by Tim Wanyonyi, will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation. And this one now will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Energy. So we go to the Honorable Member for Manyata, Honorable Mushiri Nyaga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 265-2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the status of construction of the Mudatari Kimangaru BAT and Mudatari Carolina Kevwe roads in Manyata constituency to bitumen standard, despite preliminary work having been done? 2. What caused the delay in the construction of Ina Kidhimu Kevwe Kivuti road to bitumen standard as directed by the President in July 2017? 3. When is construction expected to commence, and when is the expected completion date for the project? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. So we go to the member for Mwingi, Honorable CNN.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity given to me to ask question 266 of 2020. Mr. Speaker, question number 1, what is the current status of ownership of parcel of land reference number Zalai Mingwani Group Ranch Block 1 in Nkutani location, Nkutani Ward, Mwingi West constituency? Question 2, could the Cabinet Secretary clarify whether an exercise to survey the said land is being carried out, and if so, what is the status of the progress so far? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. So we go to the member for Teso North, Honorable Oku Kaunya. I'm not able to pick you from here, Honorable Kaunya. Now you have the floor, but you should always press the intervention slot. It makes it easier for me to
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My card was on, but I thought you could see from that end. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 267 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Health. Roman 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the cause of delay by the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, to issue contracts to Cedar Hospital Level 4, code number 0178743, and to renew the contract for Cedar Clinical Associates, Level 2, code number 017481, despite them having met all the accreditation and contracting requirements. Roman 2, could the Cabinet Secretary confirm whether delay in the issuance of the said contracts had led to the suspension of all services between NHIF and Cedar Hospital, including rebates and surgical packages since November 2019, and what measures have been taken to avoid the situation? Roman number 3, could the Cabinet Secretary state when the payments for services offered will be made, and could the ministry consider issuing the contracts to the said hospitals? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Health. So we go to the member for Mukurweini, Honorable Githiaka Kiai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to ask question number 272 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Industry, Trade and Cooperatives. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware that Rumukia Farmers Cooperative Society Limited in Mukurweini constituency has a coffee milling plant which is currently not operational due to unserviceable debt amounting to 155 million? 2, is the Cabinet Secretary further aware that Rumukia Farmers Cooperative Society did not benefit from the President's directive on debt waiver despite making requests to the Ministry at least 4 times in 2016 and 2018? Number 3, what measures is the Ministry putting in place to ensure that Rumukia Farmers Cooperative Society Limited benefits from the said President's waiver directive and becomes operational? Thank you.
Very well. So we will have that one replied to before the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. The next member is the Honorable Colonel Retired Dido Ali Russell, member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to ask question number 274 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Energy. 1, what steps has the Ministry taken to address power rationing in Marsabit Town, Marsabit County, which has been experienced since July 2020? 2, when is the Ministry replacing or rehabilitating the diesel generators that have been in use since the 1980s, and given that their continued operation is unsustainable? 3, could the Ministry consider connecting Marsabit Township and its environs and the whole county to the national grid or to other sustainable power supply, such as wind power, considering the increased high population, and state by when this will be done? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, so that one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Energy. The next question is by the member for Ikolomani, Honorable Masaka Shinali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to ask the question number 276 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Roman 1, is the Cabinet Secretary aware of the massive influx of foreigners working without legal registration and permits in the country, especially in Ikolomani constituency? Roman 2, what measures has the Ministry taken to curb infiltration of illegal immigrations into the country and secure jobs meant for locals? Roman 3, what short-term and long-term actions is the Ministry taking, including putting in place policy measures to medicate and ensure that illegal immigrations is contained? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. And the last one would be by the member for Malava, but I have to confirm whether you wish to actually ask the questions, because at one point you wrote asking that it be deferred. At another point, you also wrote asking that the question be modified. And I have no problem with the modification because it doesn't seem to alter the material facts about what which you're asking for. So are you interested in asking the question, Honorable Njedi?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, proceed.
I wish to proceed because the amendment is not so major. It's my question number 277 of 2020 to the CS Minister of Education. Question 1, how much funds were recently released by the ministry to secondary schools to pay teachers employed by the schools' management boards, and in particular, money released to Kakamega North Sub-County, which is also my constituency, Malava? Question 2, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of all BOM teachers who are considered for payment from the funds, indicating the schools they teach, the amount paid per teacher, and the duration of the payment in the sub-county, Kakamega North? Number 3, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the criteria used in determining and approving BOM teachers that were paid by the ministry? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. That marks the end of our question time, so we will go to, under the same order, response to statements. And we seem to be having 2 responses from the committee, the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. So first, let me confirm that the chair or his representative is in. We have that response by the Honorable Kago to the request by Honorable Kago, and the one to be responded to also from Honorable Savula. Honorable Tiren, is he in the House? So are you prepared to give that response? Okay, you have the floor then.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. I have 2 responses to 2 statements to respond to from the honorable members. Should I just start from any direction or specifically because I have 2 to respond to?
Whichever you are comfortable with starting with will be fine.
But I heard you mention Honorable Savula. I think Honorable Savula was a question which I think was...
Now, just to be clear.
Yes, sir.
How many statement
I have 2
responses do you have?
I have 2 statements.
One is by Honorable Kago.
Yes.
And the second one?
Honorable Kago and Honorable Savula. Sorry, thank you.
Yes, I think because this one, yeah, you start with whichever you are comfortable with.
Let me start with Savula's.
Okay.
Okay, statement regarding disbanding of Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund in the county by Honorable Hayub Savula, MP Lugari constituency. The background of the information, these are statements from the Ministry of Agriculture. The background information is that up to until 1980, Kenya produced sufficient basic food for feed and its population, and reaching a surplus of 20% by the mid-1970s. Since then, agriculture production has fluctuated year on year. At the same time, Kenya has seen sustainable high growth in population, nearly 6 times increase since 1963. This compares with the 2.2 growth index of stable cereals from 1963 to 2017. The food deficit of maize, rice, Irish potatoes, wheat, sugar continues to widen by 2017. Kenya's basic food production could regularly feed 72% of the population. In pursuit of this 100% food and nutrition security, the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries, and Cooperatives developed the Agricultural Sector Transformation and Growth Strategy, 2019-2029. The ASTGS identifies 9 flagships crucial in addressing systemic bottlenecks constraining Kenyans' ability to achieve food and nutrition security. The strategy therefore proposes reforms of the national food reserve systems, and in particular, Flagship 5 proposes restructuring of the strategic food reserve, where governance and operations of the current systems were deemed wanting. Honorable members, it is against this background that I am giving a statement regarding disbanding of strategic food reserve trust in the country. In my statement, I will focus in the circumstance that led to the disbandment of the Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund. The Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, in collaboration with stakeholders development, ASTGS, which identifies the need to boost household food resilience to better serve approximately 4 million Kenyans by restructuring governance and operations of the Strategic Food Reserve, SFR. This necessitates disbandment of SFRTF, that is Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund, and was guided by 1. Need to stop undermining the basic functions of the market and strategic food reserve, strategic food reserve system. Historically, the government, through the Strategic Food Reserve, intervenes in the maize market by offering to purchase maize soon after the harvest at a price higher than the prevailing market prices. The product is stored within the National Cereal and Produce Board and later released to the market at a price below the market price when supplies are depleted. Such practice causes market distortion, both in price and supply of the commodity. Need to stop undermining the growth of the predictable agricultural market. The preferential relationships given to National Cereal and Produce Board in the agency arrangements with SFR, that is Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund, coupled with blanket government subsidies, outcrowds private sector participation in the food storage system, and generally disorganized private sector involvement in strategic food reserve system. Roman 3, need to remove overlaps in the legal mandates. The legal notice established by SFR-TF did not change the National Cereal and Produce Board Act, Cap 338. This created overlaps in the legal mandate between the two agencies to procure, store, and sell foods, commodities, and maintain of National Food Reserve. The subsequent agency relationship of Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund with National Cereal and Produce Board on a non-commercial terms has created a situation where National Cereals and Produce Board is in practice subservient to SFRTF. Roman 4, conflict of interest and contradictions. As per the Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund regulation, the principal secretary responsible for agriculture is a member of the oversight board as well as administrator of the fund. Roman 5 is lack of functional instruments for monitoring trade flows, including up-to-date food balance sheets. This affects the available food quantities, early warning of impending crisis, as well as mechanisms and triggers triggers for market stabilization in the function of Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund. Roman 6, need to release time and resources in the Ministry of Agriculture. Need to realize time and resources in the Ministry of Agriculture for other strategic crop production interventions. The intense involvement of Ministry of Agriculture in operation issues of the maize subsector draws focus and funds away from border and more strategic action for improving food and nutrition security. That one is a statement to Honorable Savula from the Ministry. And I go to the second statement, which was raised by Honorable Gabriel Kago. Statement regarding the outbreak of foot and mouth disease in Kiambu County, particularly Githunguri constituency, by the Honorable Gabriel Kago, MP Githunguri constituency. Honorable members, I do acknowledge that there was an outbreak of foot and mouth disease in Githunguri constituency. However, the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives and county government of Kiambu have taken their responsibilities in addressing the outbreak of the disease as outlined in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. The fourth schedule of the Constitution of Kenya assigns the disease control functions of the county government. The Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, in collaboration with the county government of Kiambu, have done the following. 1. Developed final drafts of the veterinary and livestock policies in consultation with stakeholders. 2. Stated that the review of the Animal Disease Act Cap 364 to empower the Cabinet Secretary and the Director of Veterinary Services, county directors and veterinary to effectively manage animal disease and outline responsibilities of both levels of government in line with the Constitution. 3. Developed guidelines for delivery of veterinary services 2014 in consultation with the county governments. These guidelines unbundle the various veterinary functions provided in the Constitution for both levels of government. They spell out what should be done at the national level and what is the mandate of the county veterinary service. The guidelines were adopted by both levels of government and cascaded to counties. 4. Developed the national risk-based foot and mouth disease control strategy in consultation with the counties. 5. Trained 15 veterinary and animal health assistants, both public and private, from Kiambu County and over 700 animal health service providers countrywide on surveillance of animal and reporting using mobile phone-based approach. This provides real-time disease reports and alerts. Link the county government veterinary service to the national disease database known as the Kenya Animal Biosurveillance System, CABS. The county director is able to access disease reports submitted by frontline personnel to farm level in real time. 7. Under the technical assistance of counties, we have developed and printed 3,000 foot and mouth disease posters and 5,000 brochures, and the distribution to the various counties, including Kiambu County. These are ready to use extension creation material targeting both the technical and non-technical audience. Sample radio messages to local FM stations have also been shared with the county. This will assist in early detection and reporting of FMD. 8 is National Foot and Mouth Reference Laboratory has been receiving and processing FMD foot and mouth disease samples submitted from the counties. That is from the counties. Githunguri constituency has trained and competent personnel who can ably collect FMD samples and submit them to this laboratory for confirmatory diagnosis before vaccination. For Githunguri and Kiambu County in general, they have used their own laboratory personnel. 9. Quality FMD vaccines are available from Kenya Veterinary Vaccines Production Institution. Then 10, finally 10, the ministry has continued to support disease outbreak investigations upon request from the county government. On 2nd June 2020, a retrospective FMD outbreak investigation was conducted in Limuru, Tigoni, and Tigoni. Typing revealed stereotype O. Laboratory subtyping is currently ongoing in FMD Embakasi Laboratory. Samples received from Githunguri on 10/02/2020 also revealed that presence of FMD serotype O. The results of subtyping will inform the matching of the circulating FMD strains and the vaccines being used. These results will inform the necessary recommendation of Kevavapi and the County Veterinary Service. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. This was a statement, and it was signed by Honorable Peter Munya. Thank you, on 10/8/2020. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Now, I see there is quite some interest. Looks like especially on the first statement you read. So I will start, of course, with the member who made the request for that particular statement. That is Honorable Sabula. We'll start with you, and then I'll give a few other members. Yeah, feel free to use that one. You had made a request. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not quite satisfied with the answer because the issues I raised that are touching on the food security of this country. That is one. If you merge the National Strategic Food Reserve with a parastatal called National Cereals and Produce Board, you're putting the country in danger because the function of NCPB deals with only specifically cereals. Strategic Food Reserve, you deal with all items that are factored in food reserve of a country. For a country to be secure in terms of food production, you need milk, you need fish, that's food, you need sugar, you need beans, you need all items. But National Cereals and Produce Board only deals with cereals. That's why we need to recreate this National Strategic Food Reserve. We should not ignore those things. Mr. Speaker, like Kenya Meat Commission has been transferred to the military, defense. Meat is strategic food reserve. It's not handled by NCPB. So if you transfer all the functions of NCPB, all functions of strategic food reserve to NCPB, you are leaving other food stuff outside the mandate of strategic food reserve. I would like the cabinet to rethink about this idea and separate NCPB from the strategic food reserve. Let's have a strategic food reserve in Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, though of course I'm not very convinced that meat forms part of the strategic food reserve. It is something that, of course, I believe the chair will be able to. So let's have, we will only deal first with the first one, and then now come to the second one, even if we are going to have members asking, but let's go in that sequence. So when I am giving Honorable Wamalwa, Dr. Wamalwa, are you asking the second, or are you seeking clarification on the second one or the first?
It's clarification for the first one, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
On strategic food reserve.
Proceed.
First, I want to thank the chairman for that response, Mr. Speaker. But however, it is not satisfactory in the sense that, Mr. Speaker, the strategic food reserve and National Cereals and Produce Board, their core mandate is totally different. Strategic food reserve, as a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, in my own argument, it's under the interior, and the other one is under agriculture. Before disbanding this, Mr. Speaker, it had some assets. So my clarification is, what happens to the assets of the strategic food reserve in terms of human resource and in terms of money? I'm aware, Mr. Speaker, there was about more than 10 billion in the account. What is the fate of this asset? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, right now, the integral part of our constitution is public participation. Was there any public participation before this decision was made, Mr. Speaker? And if public participation was done, to what extent? Mr. Speaker, I'm asking questions for clarity, and the chairman I don't think is paying attention. Is he being interfered by the honorable member? He needs to listen.
Well, looking at him, he seems
No. The honorable member was being disturbed. Now she has left.
He has 2 years. You can have one. Let's proceed.
So my question,
my
question for clarity is.
Let's be brief so that.
My question for clarity is: before strategic food reserve was before disbanding it, was there any public participation? And to what extent was this public participation? And what happens, Mr. Speaker, of the assets of the strategic food reserve? Because you are aware there was staff and there was also some money, more than 10 billion in the bank.
Okay.
What happens to that amount? I thank you.
Seems there is a lot of interest from Trans Nzoia and the surrounding areas. This is a strategic food reserve, is national. But let's hear what Honorable Wangwe has to say.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First and foremost, history is important, Honorable Speaker, and we need to take cognizance that SFR came out of NCPB. That history must be well recognized that way. Therefore, to revert back is not an issue. My concern, Honorable Speaker, is this. Let us not hide corruption. Let us not run away from what has been corruptly transferred elsewhere. Honorable Speaker, before SFR is now wound up, there is a clear dispute of 1.8 billion, which was paid erroneously. The question we are asking is it because of this transfer of 1.8 that today is under investigation by PIC or PIC, a committee in this House, Honorable Speaker? Therefore, let us not do the transfer because there is something that has happened in an institution, and that's what's making us to run away from it. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I support any kind of reorganization the executive wants to do is very much within the mandate of the executive.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, in this country, National Cereals and Produce Board has been playing a crucial role since the time of President Moi, President Kibaki, and now President Uhuru. And we expect it to play a key role. In this issue about the strategic food reserve, I think it will be important that we have disclosure on all matters pertaining to it before the winding up is done, so that Kenyans are aware of all their assets. And if there are assets that are going to be lost, we should be able to recover. And again, interest must also be declared in this matter, because more often we've seen in this country where people have interest in certain winding up of certain parastatals so that they can benefit in it. And these are assets that have been there, and we want that to be made very clear.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Kevin Wanyonyi, Ferdinand.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very disturbed. I'm disturbed, Mr. Speaker, because the answer given by the CS on the segment of SOSR is not very clear. The mandate of strategic food reserves and National Cereals Board, Mr. Speaker, are very, very clear. I personally have been in this Committee of Agriculture for some time now. We even took time, Mr. Speaker, and went to South Africa and realized how the two functions work. I understand there was an interest, as mentioned by my colleague from Trans Nzoia, Honorable Omalwa. We had 10 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very clear, and I can be quoted anywhere. That was the interest why this strategic food reserve was actually transferred to National Cereals Board. Today, you can see how we are suffering. 190,000 bags of maize were destroyed yesterday, whatever, because there was no clear function, there's no clear function between strategic food reserves and the National Cereals Board. To the extent today, and I can prove it, Mr. Speaker, you go to Transsoya, you'll find people still having maize for the other year. And yet nothing has happened because of that confusion. And there's a busybody called Omutata, I think, went to court. And I wanted my chair to be able to reflect on that, and I think that was stopped. The merging of National Cereals Board and Strategic Food Reserve.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by saying that this must be received, and I want the chairman of the agriculture, my good friend here sitting here, to call the minister to come before the committee so they can clarify exactly what is happening in this body, because at the end of the day, Kenyans are going to have problems of food in this country.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's see, Honorable Atandi, and probably we can stop it there, and then go to the next one.
Honorable Speaker, I don't want to comment on this.
Okay, Honorable Ochanda.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, one thing that is clear is that Strategic Food Reserve was born of the Cereals and Produce Board, and there was a reason. The ministry needed to explain this properly. Why is it getting back? Is the object and the reason of why it was born of the cereals been met or not? I think these are some of the fundamental questions that we needed the CS needed to bring around, so that when we are discussing this, we'll be very clear that the mandate of the Strategic Food Reserve can easily get back to the cereals and produce again. But besides that, Mr. Speaker, when we are talking about Strategic Food Reserve, we are not talking about issues of buy and sell, because Cereals and Produce Board is a market player. It plays the role of even sometimes making sure that the market becomes favorable to the other players in the country. But that is not a role that a Strategic Food Reserve is supposed to be doing. Strategic Food Reserve is supposed to be projecting in terms of, particularly now, we are, as a country, we are not producing food. We are not producing enough food. And we are constantly subjected to catastrophes that require that at least we get somewhere to get food. So that is actually what Strategic Food Reserve ought to be doing in terms of projecting and keeping food, storing food, so that when we are in a situation where we cannot get a good enough produce, which in real sense is the work of Cereals and Produce Board, then we turn to the Food Reserve Agency. So, okay. Mr. Speaker, I think this needs to be explained further.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So now that marks the end of those members seeking clarifications on the first statement. On the second one, I'll only give an opportunity to the member who asked for the statement. That is Honorable Kago. And that will probably be it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was not convinced by the reply from the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture. Honorable Speaker, it is a high time the two levels of government should take seriously the issues of farmers in this country. Honorable Speaker, in my statement, I indicated that in Githunguri constituency, the foot and mouth disease outbreak was first reported in early September 2019, that is last year. But in his reply, he stated that the ministry and the county government came to know about the disease in February this year. Honorable Speaker, we need to take the issues of the farmers seriously. So far, in Githunguri constituency, we have lost over 1,500 80,000 liters of milk per day. That is in Githunguri dairy farmers. Honorable Speaker, it is from this that I requested the government through the Cabinet Secretary to consider restocking the livestock loss in Githunguri constituency as a result of this foot and mouth outbreak, to help the farmers recover the animals that they had lost. So, Honorable Speaker, currently we also have a problem with the lumpy skin disease that is making the farmers to have a lot of losses. Honorable Speaker, I want to catch your attention, Honorable Speaker.
You have the entire of my attention now.
The losses that the farmers are experiencing in Githunguri and at larger Kiambu, we need the minister to take it seriously and also to compensate the loss that the farmers have incurred. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now, Honorable Tiren, looking at the first one, there seems to be a lot of issues. You are free to, of course, respond to them yourself. You are also free to probably call back the CES so that he can, respond to some of these things himself directly, but it's up to you, really.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. I think we will pass it over to the Honorable Minister so that he can give us maybe more information. And I think from what was stated here, although some of the questions people have raised, I can see they were answered here, the reason, because you're asking about the reason. But what I'll also do is that we'll still get back to the Minister and see if he can come to the committee and be able to need some light on the same. Thank you.
Honorable Tiren, when the CS comes to your committee, we request your committee to kindly inform, especially those members who seems to have had some very pertinent issues, so that they can raise it. So whenever you do that, you kindly, at least I'm sure you have noted them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've noted. We will do that, sir. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Thank you. So then we proceed to the next order. What's your point of order, Honorable Gikaria?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to seek indulgence in a few things. Honorable Speaker, I've brought, now it's almost 1 year, I've brought quite a number of a few amendments in various legislation. And they have gone through the respective, like one had to go through the budget committee. Actually, two of them have gone through the budget committee. They gave their note. And to date, I've not seen anything, Honorable Speaker, and time is not on our side. And one of them is the NCA, National Construction Authority. Honorable Speaker, we have given youths an opportunity to work, but they are again impeded by some of the legislation in the NCA. And I sought the amendments to have them exempted, which was approved. But to date, Honorable Speaker, the other bit is about where loitering and moving without intended purpose in my constituency has landed my people into so many problems. I intended to change the penal code to look into the amendment of those old colonial laws where they were just arresting people because they are loitering. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution is very clear on matters of movement. And Honorable Speaker, it's a little bit sad that I have to keep on addressing some of these things, Honorable Speaker. I beg to get some direction from your end. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Gikaria, I am informed that some of your concerns are being looked into, particularly in terms of harmonization, so that whatever has come out of committees, they see which one has money implication, which one doesn't. It will go, of course, through the normal process, and sometimes it's not very quick. But of course, your sentiments have been noted, and some of them will be expedited.
Order number 8, the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 28 of 2020. First reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Health Act to provide that male circumcision shall be performed under medically safe and hygienic conditions and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Higher Education Loans Board Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2020. First reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Higher Education Loans Board Act. Order number 10, Committee of the Whole House.
Order, honourable members. We are now in the Committee of the Whole to debate on the Cancer Prevention Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019 by the Honourable Gladys Wanga, MP.
Clause 3.
I propose the question, which is as clause 3, be part of the bill. We have a proposed amendment by the chairperson, by Honorable Sabina Chege, MP chairperson. Honorable Nyikal, yes, I've been notified that it's official that you're doing on behalf of the Honorable Sabina Chege, the chairperson, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I wish to amend clause 3 as in the order paper. And the import of this clause, Chair, is to replace the word treatment in paragraph BA and substitute, therefore, the word management. Madam Chair, the import of this is treatment is actually narrow and limits you on what you do to the patient, whereas management is holistic, which will look at the medical treatments you give, the drugs you give, the surgery you do, how you live, what food you eat, advice you are given thereafter, which is actually what we needed and what we should look at in cancer, handling of cancer. Therefore, we feel that that amendment actually enriches the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Important members, I propose the question, which is that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Chair, that is Honorable Nyikal. There is interest. I start with the member for Kiminini.
Thank you, Chair. I do support the amendment, and in fact, as Honorable Nyikal clearly puts it, when you talk about treatment, your focus is on the patient, but management is the entire value chain, where there is early diagnosis, policy, framework, and all that. So it is the one that is supposed to have been used in the bigger picture. In fact, in today's practice, there's a total paradigm shift. It's no longer used as treatment, it's used as management. So I do support, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'd like to agree with the amendment by the Health Committee as explained by Honorable Nikal. I think it only makes the bill better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I do support the amendment from Honorable Nikal. Honorable Nikal, having been, is actually a medical officer and having been Director of Medical Services, understand, because management is holistic and treatment is very specific. And in the holistic kind of management, we'll even talk of prevention, we'll talk of other kind of intervention that will make sure that at least a patient suffering from cancer are not affected either financially or physically. Honorable Speaker, I will also bring the issue of hospice. So thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I do support.
Thank you, Chair. I want to support the amendment by the Chair. And you know, there's no known treatment of cancer, really, but management is the applicable word. And the patients who have recovered from cancer is early detection following management. So I do support, and I thank you, Chair.
With that, honourable members, allow me to put a question to clause 3, which is that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I put the question to the clause, which is that clause 3, as amended, be part of the bill. All members, will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next clause.
Clause 4.
I propose the question, which is that clause 4 be part of the bill. Again, we have the proposed amendment on clause 4 by the Honorable Nikal on behalf of Honorable Sabina Chege. But you have an approved further amendment. It's not a further amendment, it's part of the amendment. But I need to notify the members that it has been approved by the Speaker, but it's not in the order paper. So you'll move it together, but please highlight on that other part of the amendment that
thank you, Chair. The order, the amendment in the paper, let me start that I wish to make amendment to clause 4 as in the order paper and also do further amendment. Now, Madam Chair, in clause 4, left as it is, if you look at the word medical oncologist in line 3, that is a cadre of staff. And then the whole subclause actually lists several cadres, like a medical oncologist, pediatric oncologist, that is the person who treats children, radiation oncologist, that's the person who treats you with x-rays and other radiation, oncology nurses, the specific nurses. So basically, it is all talking about medical staff, human resource. So if you then just replace it with the word medical oncology, which in itself is actually the subject, then it is not appropriate. So the proposed further amendment will be that we delete the words, all the words after the word of.
Whatever is on the order paper, you've moved as it is.
Yes.
But again, as I stated, you had another amendment that which has been approved. That is what now you're highlighting.
Now I'm highlighting the other amendment.
Which now you're moving the whole.
Which now I'm moving.
Very
so
well.
I wish to move that clause 4 be further amended by deleting in A the word public in line 3. The import there is if you use public health, then you can have situations where you have a ministry where public health and medical services. So then it will not be clear. So in A, if you use the word health, and remove public and leave health, then that is more appropriate. That is in A. So that A you don't have, but basically what we are removing is the word public and leaving health. Then B is where, again now, what we are doing is instead of listing all the cadres that are involved in the treatment and management of cancer, we remove all those and replace with the word training of human resource for oncology services. The value of that, Chair, is there are even some cadres that may appear later, which are not now in practice. And if you leave it as this, then you will now have to maybe make amendment later. But if we say human resource for oncology services, then you cover everybody. And it also removes the need to list all the various people that are involved in the treatment and management of cancer. So those are the imports of the two amendments in A and B.
Honourable members, having listened to the import of the proposed amendment on clause 4 by the Honourable Nikal on behalf of the chair, I move to propose the question, which is that clause 4 be amended as proposed by Honourable Nikal. I invite comments from the members. We don't raise hands. Let me hear. Yes, Honourable Makali. Honourable Makali Mulu, member for Kitri Central.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, having listened to the mover and Dr. Nikal, Honourable Nikal, it makes a lot of sense from what he's saying. And I think just the message is that he wants to be more inclusive. And I think it's good when we have everybody on board, other than leaving some. I support.
Member for Nandi, Tum Chebet, you want to comment on this?
No, I want to comment on public service, not this one.
Very well. The member for Ndiwa.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to support this amendment because public health was a bit specific, Chair. And now if we just leave it at health alone, it can be for medical and also public. So it's accommodate both in advance. Also, HR for ecology services. Chair, this is, I think, there's a lot of intelligence in this because cancer will have more expertise coming down the line. Others we have not even defined now, so leaving it open makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Honourable Tongi. At least today I can notice you without a card and with a mask.
Thank you. It's just that the card has refused to work. Madam Speaker, I simply want to acknowledge and appreciate what the contribution from Dr. Nikal, Honorable Dr. Nikal, but I also want to extend, Madam Speaker, to mention that it's not just enough to train people and have them prepared for this cancer management. When we cannot come up with a system of rewarding the human beings, rewarding the workers, Madam Speaker, all that we are doing and the legislation that we are putting in place will count to nothing. Because we have had cases of very qualified Kenyans who have moved to other countries in the world to go and practice medicine there. Yet again, here in Kenya, we cannot retain the human resource that we have. We have cases of CUPAN doctors, Madam Speaker, who have come to help us manage the cases in Kenya. And it is true what the newspaper said, Madam Speaker, they are being paid almost 4 times what a local doctor is being paid. So as we prepare this, Madam Speaker, as we inculcate the culture of training and ensuring that the workers, health workers are being recognized and equipped for this cancer management.
Honourable Tongi, please restrict yourself to the amendment because we did a debate in the second reading.
True. It's within that, Madam Speaker, because we are speaking of human resource management, the training and the rewarding. Because you cannot be rewarded for what you have not done, Madam Speaker. What cannot be measured cannot be rewarded. I support, but we need to manage the human resource and the reward process a lot more better than we are doing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, members, with that debate, with that debate, the last one will be member for Omabay, Honorable Wanga. Just a comment.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, again, I want to thank the committee for that very useful addition. We were running a risk of excluding some areas of oncology and therefore, or cadres. And therefore, with this, even emerging cadres will now fit, rather than trying to exhaust the list within the bill. So I agree and support the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Wanga, no, this is your bill. Members, with that, I put the question, which is that clause 4 be amended as proposed by Honorable Nyikal. Or members, as many as of the opinion say aye. Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. I put the question, which is that clause 4 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of the opinion say aye? And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? And members, the ayes have it. That's close.
Title.
I propose the question, which the title be the title to the bill. Members, we have no proposed amendment to the title, and I move to put the question, which is that the title be the title to the bill. Will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. Next, close.
Clause 2.
I propose the question, which is that clause 2 be part of the bill. Again, I see no amendment to clause 2 that has been proposed. I neither have moved to put the question, which is that clause 2 be part of the bill. Members, will as many as of this opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
Members, I propose the question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. Again, we have no proposed amendment to clause 1, and I therefore move to put the question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as of this opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. Members, we have come to the conclusion on the Committee of the Whole on the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019. And I therefore call upon the mover of the bill to move the reported. The Honorable Wanga.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Very well. Members, I put the question for reporting, which the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as of this opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Okay, we have the chairperson.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Very well. So let's have the mover to move agreement with the report.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. And I request the Honorable Nyikal to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Okay. So I propose a question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Let me put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Any other contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. So, honorable members, we will move the third reading. Let the mover move the bill for third reading.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, be now read a third time. I again request the Honorable Nikal to second.
That's the place now that you need a second. I don't think we needed in the first one, but let's proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the third reading. This is an extremely important bill that we are passing. And Mr. Speaker, the treatment management of cancer is something that needs a lot of guidance in this country. It is a calamity that has increased tremendously while we have not put in places policies and structure for its management. And this bill, if passed, goes a long way in improving the treatment and management of cancer. Therefore, I second.
So, honorable members, I propose a question, which is that Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, be now read the third time. Honorable Wamalwa, you want to say something on this, or you are waiting for another one? Just a minute, honorable members. Something that I want to clarify. Honorable members, as you could see, I was consulting to confirm that we have the numbers. You know, the difficulty nowadays is that we have also to confirm the numbers that are in other holding areas. And I have confirmed that we have the requisite quorum in the House for purposes of making this decision. So I therefore put the question, which is that the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, be now read a third time. Will as many as other opinions say aye? Many as our contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Cancer Prevention and Control Act and for connected purposes. Order number 11, the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2019, resumption of debate.
Members, this is a resumption of debates on the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2019. We had a balance of 43 minutes. And the last member who was speaking to this was Honorable Akinyi Obura, who has 3 minutes. We give the member priority speaking. Now that when she's not there, the 3 minutes has been forfeited. So I move to the next member, the Honorable Martin Owino. You want to speak to this? No, not that. Ole Sankok, David, nominated. Yes. Yes, and as a matter of procedure, remember, we do not contribute twice to a bill. That is the procedure as outlined in our own standing orders. The members who had contributed were many. So I would mention the members who are on the request list. Otherwise, Honorable Wanga, do you contribute on this? Let the members who had not contributed please go to intervention. Oh, this is a bill that Honorable Amalwa has to say that many members had really contributed to the bill. Yes, Honorable Amalwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill. and to congratulate my friend, the sponsor of this bill, for the good work well done. However, Madam Speaker, I have some concerns. Mr. Speaker, the critical objective of this bill, one, is once you attain the mandatory age of 60 years, it should not seek for extension. And secondly, Madam Speaker, this mandatory age has been in the regulation. But what the honorable member is doing, he wants to bring it into a statute. We do support the youth. Madam Speaker, 80% of unemployed people in this country are the youth. And we do support because they have the qualifications, they have all what it takes, and they should be given the jobs. But my concern, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, is that the moment you remove these 60 years from a regulation to put it into a statutory, a bill, to an act of parliament, it again makes it very difficult. Because sometimes back when you were young, we know people used to retire at 55 years. Later on, it was extended to 60 years, but which was through a regulation. And this is what's happening currently. So, but the honorable member wants to put it in an act of parliament, which will make it very difficult if another president comes, or if a youthful president, you become a president for that matter, and you declare that people should retire at 55 years. You must go again and amend that act, which is very, very difficult. So, however, I would have wished that it remains at the regulatory level, because it's not changing anything. The retirement age is still going to remain 60 years. There's no change at all. But if the House is convinced that it should be in the bill or in the act for that matter, later on, when Honorable Chris Omala becomes the president, and I want to say the youth to get jobs, again you have to amend. And in this House, Madam Speaker, you'll agree with me, to amend a bill, an amendment on an act, it is very difficult. Going through the pre-publication period, going through the scrutiny, going through public participation, it will take another whole year before you amend that. And Madam Speaker, we need also to understand why people seek for extension. It might be a medical issue, Madam Speaker, or somebody has gone on study leave. It's not that normally when you seek an extension, there must be a reason. And normally, when you act, you are acting because there's a reason. I'm assuming somebody has gone for a study leave, and maybe you've taken more than a year, and here you've put a time frame of 6 months. It becomes very difficult. So I'm requesting the honorable member, as you move to the committee of the whole House, let's amend this for purposes of win-win. Because tomorrow, you might be the president, and you're a youth, and you want the youth to get jobs. How will you do it? You can do it through an executive order. But once you put it in the law, it's going to be very, very difficult. So please, as we move to the committee of the whole House, let's look at the amendments, and let's come up with amendments that it will be a win-win in both situations, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Very well, you support. Let me have the Honorable Russell Ali, the member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill. But just like my colleague, Honorable Omalwa, I have a problem with this way of making laws. I think our laws should be implementable. It should be for posterity, but also it should not create administrative encumbrances. The administrators should have the flexibility in terms of running the institution. There are two areas in that bill that my honorable colleague has proposed. I congratulate him for his bill. First of all, is about pay of higher rank. Secondly, is about retirement age. For those who have worked in government, and many of us we have, some of these things are administrative. And that is why, other than the statutes that runs organization in the form of acts,
those organizations will have regulations. It is easy to amend regulations, keeping with the time, but really not the act, because the act becomes the fundamental and basis of law that governs that institution. For that reason, I think if we really want to build this country for posterity, and if we must allow the senior management in this country to run institutions with confidence, I think we should not legislate in vain. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Good comments. The member for Kangundo, the Honorable Muli Fabian.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, to give me this opportunity to articulate about this bill. Honorable Madam Speaker, I think in my school of thought, I come from, I differ from Honorable Amalwa by saying that we should give room for administration. Administration shall be, not should be. We need to put laws where things has to be done progressively. We're making laws, giving room for people to violate our laws. If you see now in Kenyan system, there are people acting, people who are working as CEOs, directors, acting more than even a year. Why do we put somebody working in the government where the principles of governance, they are clear, to be acting in more than a year? I support this bill by saying that the time for acting should not be more than 6 months. Also, in a growing generation like Kenya, we have too many youth coming up. You cannot tell us somebody you are extending to work up to 80 years because he has special tool while we have universities doing the same degrees. So we should not have that room by saying that somebody should be, every time it's time to be extended to continue working, while others, they're outside crying for the job. Also, this bill, it also gives a national clear guideline and also the current government employment system where they have to give returns of the number of workers working in the current government. We are having the cases where in the current government you get ghost workers who they don't give the annual returns of the people working. The human resource charter in current government is not streamlined, and if this bill can be taken to the task and give that streamlining. So, Honorable Speaker, I support and say it's a good bill, need to go to implementation, and we need to see results in governance so that our country can grow far. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member for Teso North, the Honorable Kaunya Oku. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to support this bill. I'm a member of the Committee of Administration and National Security, where the bill was committed. Madam Speaker, we discussed and looked at the merits and demerits of this bill, and I stand to support.
And as the member contributes, honorable members, please, those members who are not wearing their masks on or well, following the communications and following what we have been doing and the procedure of the House for now during this COVID, please, I order that we all wear our masks. Carry on, honorable member.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, fortunately, I'm putting on.
No, for you, you are safe. You're okay, but I don't want to.
Thank you.
They are in order now.
Thank One gap that the bill is curing is the issue of discretional extension of service or contracts. And this has been common in the Act. There was provision, of course, of extending beyond the age of 60, Madam Speaker, and they were given conditions where a public officer possesses rare knowledge, skills, and competences. Now, and of course, the other provisions. But, Madam Speaker, this had been abused. We looked at a number of organizations in the public service where extensions were given indefinitely. One of them is, of course, we have the Kenya Police, for example, Air Wing. We keep wondering whether the rare skills are never developed. So we said that, Madam Speaker, it is important the public service and other appointing authorities organize a succession program and plan early enough to ensure that the positions are filled. Then the other aspect we are feeling is the question of the youth. Honorable member who brought this bill, Honorable Benjamin Gadiru, himself being a youth, I think he was there to stand for the youth. Really, when we extend services beyond 60, the tendency is that you clog down the service. You tend to clog the service because public service depends and actually depends on that motivation that you will be able to rise to the next position. So we wanted to cure that area to ensure that our youth are able to get an opportunity to rise to those levels. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the bill because of those strengths and the gaps it is going to fill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The member for Nandi, the Nandi County Member of Parliament, the women, the Honorable Tum.
Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this motion, Amendment Bill 2019, because it prescribes the retirement age to 60. We know, Honorable Speaker, the experienced people who are in the public service possess rare knowledge, but we cannot forget the youth of this country whom we have sent to school. They need to be engaged. Honorable Speaker, public service and other appointing authorities have enough time to engage those people who are qualified. So those people who have attained the age of 60 should give room to the children, to the youth of the country, who are quite a number, so that they can be engaged. On the acting capacity, Honorable Speaker, it should be 6 months. There are people who are acting. This one kills the morale of the employees in an organization. So there is need to engage them. And if they are not qualified for those positions, let other qualified people be engaged. It increases the turnover rates in organizations when the employees have low morale because they are not promoted. So, Honorable Speaker, I support this motion for the sake of the youth. Let those who are 60 years go home and enjoy what they have attained, what they have worked for, so that our youth who are really crying in the streets can be engaged. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The member for this nominated, Honorable Yusuf Alima. Honorable Yusuf Alima, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support this bill. I take also this opportunity to appreciate Honorable Benjamin Mwangi for this timely amendment. Honorable Speaker, it is also paramount to note that in order to give room to the youths of this nation, those who attain the age of retirement should go at the age of 60. Madam Speaker, by the time one is 60, they have worked for over that 5 years, because in most cases, you find that people are employed at 25. That is mostly after university. So by the time one is 60, they have worked for over that 5 years, and within those 5 years, one has gotten married, you have constructed a home, you have even saved for retirement. So it is important to give room to the others. And there is no skill that is so special in this nation that cannot be found anywhere else. People have gone to school. There are so many graduates who have no jobs. So it is important, by the time one reaches the age of retirement, if they have a special skill that they should transit so that they train others who will be able to do the particular assignment that they were doing. So, Madam Speaker, as I have said, this nation is not short of skills, and there are many unemployed graduates. I therefore support this bill, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, you support. Let me have the floor going to the honorable member representing the people of Mwea, the Honorable Wachira Kabinga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute to this and to congratulate my brother, Honorable Gadiro, who presented the motion to our committee, and we went through it thoroughly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I support this motion because we must have a future for our generations, and more so at a time like this one when jobs are scarce in this country. We need to respect the retirement age and people go home and do other things. But even as we do so, Madam Speaker, I want to urge the government to be particularly focused on mentoring in this country. We have youth who are working in various departments, but they are not receiving the right attention in terms of mentoring, Madam Speaker. And therefore, when time comes for them to take over jobs, they lack the necessary skills. In most of the foreign countries, Madam Speaker, retiring officers are given a role to play after retirement and are given some small stipend to act as mentors of youth in various departments. And this has built the human capacity in those countries by a great deal, Madam Speaker. It is therefore important that our retiring officers are not just thrown out, because these are people who have built skills over time. These are experienced people. They have learned something. We need to have a fund that can go towards engaging these people so that by the time they are completely aged, we get as much from them so that, Madam Speaker, we no longer have shortage of human resource in this country. It's a small stipend, Madam Speaker, that would go to them. It would encourage them. It would also help them to live a better life than just telling them to go home with all the knowledge that they have acquired. For the youth in this country, it is an advice from some of us that while you are working, take interest also in engaging the elderly employees in your departments so that they can also feel encouraged to impact on you some of the skills that they have acquired over time. We find that our youth, Madam Speaker, while they are working, they are not interested in engaging their aged ones. They have assumed in one way or another that they know everything, while it is a fact that acquired knowledge and skills cannot just be corrected from nowhere, Madam Speaker. I therefore encourage them, as we advocate for them, to get more jobs, to have people retiring, go home, that they also take interest in engaging the elderly in as much as they can. And the elderly will feel encouraged too to engage them and to impact on them the necessary skills. Madam Speaker, I support this motion.
You support the motion. You're trying to say the youth run very fast, but the aged know the way. And thank you for supporting the youth, including the ones who come from Kibwezi, where I represent. Let me have the member for Kitui West, the Honorable Nyenze Edith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion. from the word go, I would want to support the motion and say that it's a very important motion, which is actually marking 60 years as the year of retirement and also encouraging employment. There's a lot of unemployment with the youth, and actually if our country does not take this seriously, this one is a time bomb in waiting, because we have so many graduates who have graduated, who have very good skills, and they've not been observed by, especially in white-collar jobs. But having said that this motion will ensure that at the age of 60, people give way for the youth to take their jobs as they retire. It's also good to note that at this age, at 60 years, this is the time when these people are retiring. They are still very energetic. They are still very knowledgeable. They've acquired so many skills with time. So just telling them, letting them retire, it's good. They will give way to the youth. But this one is also a way of wasting some knowledge and some resources from the government, because they have been trained and they are really very knowledgeable. So it's good to come up with something for these people who are retiring, especially those ones who have special skills, even if it's directing them or ensuring that they will not just go home and just retire at home with all the knowledge, because if they are not kept busy, they have been busy all through, these people are likely to even die early because they feel that they are not required in the society. And that is why it's very important when they retire, before they retire, to have some training, pre-retirement training, so that they will know what they are going to do when they go home. Some start businesses which fail within a very short time. But if they are observed, even if it's not for pay, if they are observed in some industries and even in the community, if they are given a chance to even give some advice, give some guidance, they will feel relevant. And in doing so, they will even live more days. So as I support the bill, it's important to have these people retiring at 60 be trained, have some pre-retirement training, and also, if possible, the government could also come up with some farms where they can be observed, even if they are not being paid, for them to remain relevant. Thank you. I support the bill.
Very
Thank
well.
you, Speaker.
Good insights. And I'm sure I remember some of the things we debate here in the second reading. You can still approach the committee, you can still approach the bill, so that we can see how you incorporate them in the amendment level. That is the committee of the whole. Honorable Member for Kwanza, Honorable Wanyonyi Kevin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In supporting the motion about the bill, Madam Speaker, let's make this as a regulation, other than making the law, because there will be unique circumstances, Madam Speaker, where you'll find that much as is actually an opportunity for the youths. And I'm not lost the fact that, Madam Speaker, today, I don't know whether I'm wrong, but I recently read a magazine where, Madam Speaker, over 17 million Kenyans, around about there, or 16, I'm not sure the figure, are jobless in this country. Madam Speaker, I'm aware that those that are jobless have got certificates, they have got diplomas, others have got degrees, others have got masters and PhD holders in this country, because opportunities are not there. And therefore, much as we want to open this, I think other than put it in the law, I would rather we put this as a regulation, because, Madam Speaker, if we make it mandatory and must be a law,
you'll find yourself in the circumstances where a very important organization has not got this succession process mature enough to be able to take up the task. And therefore, much as we're going to ask that it should be 60 years and below, Madam Speaker, let's make it a regulation other than make it a law. Because if you make a law, it must be done. And so I'm also alive to the fact that, Madam Speaker, maybe at that time, you find that there's nobody in the organization below 60 years that will be able to take out the mandate. And therefore, much as I agree with this, I want to make it that also in the regulation you should be able to have people, at least if an organization has somebody who's going about to retire, about 60, the succession plan must be in place. And this, of course, is important. We've had cases where people actually hold the keys of the key positions and they're not able to let it go. But at that time, when somebody is there and is aging and is almost 60 years old, we should have a succession plan. And the regular exposure of the employees below him, a regular training of the people below him, that must also be in the chart, so that the whole thing is not muddled up. The whole thing is not just taken for the sake of it. And therefore, as much as we are saying for that, I have been a CEO myself in 3 parastatals in this country. And what I did at that time, before I went into politics, I made sure there was regular meetings, regular trainings, and exposure of the people that were working under me. And so that when I left, Madam Speaker, I'm a proud person, because when I left, there were more than 4 people who actually were able to succeed, to take up my position without favorism. Because the moment you have this and you say now, it's 60 years, get out of the place, and because it's a law, Madam Speaker, we run a risk of running this country in a very bad way. And therefore, I want to agree that this will give us an opportunity. But how many companies have this kind of thing? Very few of them. And we're talking about 17 million Kenyans around about there that are looking for jobs. And therefore, much as we've been hurried to do that, it's just one position. Maybe among the other companies, there are not very many. And therefore, I support this, but at the time we're going to have the 3rd reading of this particular bill, we should be able to amend it so that we are talking about, we are not talking about, we're talking about a regulation and not to make it put in the law. I support.
Very well. The next is the next is the member, Honorable Tongi. Honorable Tongi, please, you are a long-serving member. We don't raise hands in the chamber. And I am aware that you do not have your card, but next time, honorable members, you can approach the clerk's desk and let's have the right communication so that we don't do what we're not supposed to do while in the chamber. Yes, Honorable Tongi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate your wisdom. On the onset, I want to support this bill. It's coming from my good friend Benjamin. It's forward-looking and meant to cure the challenges that we're having as a country. Madam Speaker, it's good to take care of the young people, but as we do that, we should also not forget the old, because old is gold. All of us at some point in time, we are going to get old, and even the youth of today, tomorrow will be old. So as we make the law, we should not only have it for that short period to address a few specific cases we have in mind. Madam Speaker, having said that, it's true that we have a huge number of unemployed youth in the country, a huge number of our youth who have gone through college, and they are qualified to work and serve this country. But it's not just enough to get a degree, to get a certificate from a college, and then you say you are qualified to run an institution. You also need to develop the hands-on skills, Madam Speaker. And these hands-on skills can only be acquired by getting the experience that you sit down and learn it
And to do that, Madam Speaker, we have started as a government the incubation period, incubation program, which...
There is Honorable Tongi. There is a point of order by the Honorable Sankok. Honorable Sankok, what is out of order?
Honorable
And
Speaker.
we cannot have two members upstand. You should resume your seat, Honorable. Yes, very well.
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Member Tongi is misleading this House. We are not saying that those who are graduate, those youth, will come and take up the position
What is out of order? Let
he
me
is
understand.
misleading this House because the bill create positions for the youth. They can enter into in the graduate level just on the bottom of the pyramid, while those on top will succeed. Those who will retire.
Now you are in. That's the point of information you are debating.
Yeah, he is actually misleading the House by saying that those graduates should not take up CEO's position. The bill does not say that.
The bill does not say order. This is a house of debate. Honorable Tongi, please. I know you clarified to Honorable.
Thank you.
Honorable Sankok, your statement.
You know, my good friend, nominated the Member of Parliament 001, likes publicity, and it's one such opportunity that he wanted to raise so that the youth can notice him and the community that he represents. Because I have not said that the youth should not be CEOs. Actually, I'm on record, Madam Speaker, the other day posting on our page where Rwanda has given an opportunity to a young person of 19 years old to sit in the cabinet. And if that is true, it's something that all of us need to emulate as a country and learn from the best practices. And that is one such best practice. But as we do that, Madam Speaker, we also have a country to learn. A country to learn where you need hands-on. You need people who have experience to manage some of the core functions of this country, Madam Speaker. And it's a wake-up call for the good people who are going to drive the agenda of the development.
Let me add you 1 more minute because of the interruption by 001.
Thank you, Madam.
As you said, where 001, there is a method of trying to raise issues. If it's a point of information, where some of us have also read the bill, so that we don't look like we are raising points of order to very well. Yes, 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You always consider it, and in my next government, in our next life, you will be my president, because we need to empower ladies. And the Bible is very clear, Madam Speaker, that if you cannot be trusted with small things, you cannot be trusted with bigger things. You have been trusted with this, and you have been fair in your judgment. Like this one, you have been fair to me and to the country. So, Madam Speaker, as I wind up, I wanted to emphasize the point that it's important we make the law. But as we make the law, Madam Speaker, it's not right also to say that somebody should not act for more than 6 months. There are many conditions, there are many reasons why one can act for more than 6 months. There are cases of sicknesses, Madam Speaker. You are involved in an accident.
Speaker, this bill has come the right time. It has come when this country is being divided into 2 classes. And I'm surprised, Madam Speaker, the people who are pushing the narrative of youths being sidelined are not here to contribute to this bill, apart from 001. So it will be very important for us to support this bill so that going forward we don't have a successional crisis. What we want is people to retire, others to take over the position of the ones who have retired, and have youths who can bring fresh skills and fresh blood and fresh energy to the industry, Madam Speaker. So for me, Madam Speaker, I'm very grateful because this bill really, it has come the right time when this country needs to empower youth. And I think the opportunity today we have as the legislators is to support this bill so that the people or the politicians who are dividing this country along classes, Madam Speaker, don't have place in this country. So I want to urge the honorable members who are here, we all support the bill so that youth of this country needs empowerment, Madam Speaker. Youth of this country needs a space, Madam Speaker. And the space, it is here, not giving out mokokotenis, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Very well. Now I call upon the mover to reply. given that the time allocated to the debate of the bill is...
Thank you, Madam
yes.
Speaker. And I would first wish to donate 2 minutes to Honorable Didi Nyoro, who is also a youth, and to say something, to contribute.
Honorable Didi Nyoro, you are youth. Then this is procedural. It's quite in order because the debate has been completed maturely. So 2 minutes, Didi Nyoro.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I rise to support my Honorable Gadiro on this bill, which is very robust. And as a youth, I have to say that, Madam Speaker, even as we talk about retirement age,
Are
which
you a
I
youth
support,
in age or you are youth in feeling? Or
by definition of the UN, I am a youth, Madam Speaker. And you can see even my face is glowing like a youth. Madam Speaker, I have to say that I support this bill even as we talk about retirement age. One, because we need, even before we cap the opportunities that are there in terms of age, I think this country is really lagging behind in terms of creating new opportunities for the youth. And I think that is why we have so many youth that are left behind, those that can be misused by some of the people in this house, like we saw in Muranga, Honorable Sabina Chege hiring youth from slums in Kenya.
Order. Honorable Didi Nyoro, you know the procedure of mentioning a member of parliament. You must bring a substantiation.
All right,
because we cannot substantiate that.
Well guided, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
But I was just trying to say that we need to create, and Madam Speaker, you consider being interrupted. I can see my time is almost up. And I am trying to put my point across that we actually need to focus more on creating opportunities, not just capping the available ones. And one of the ways that I thought the Jubilee government was trying to capture and create many opportunities for the youth of this country, number one was the housing program, Madam Speaker, which was to employ thousands of youth as we execute the housing project. But Madam Speaker, the 2.5 million jobs that were to be created.
No, you see now your time is off. You know, when you are not relevant, this is what you suffer from. Your members, it's always good to be relevant to the debate that you're doing. Let us not bring our outside manenos in the. So
supported this bill for their kind words, and also the departmental committee on administration and national speaker. From the debate, it's very thing to do with retirement age. So in terms of enforcement, it will give the Public Service Commission. Madam Speaker, I totally agree with the fellow members read by Honorable Koinange, Chairperson, Departmental Committee on what grounds someone is holding the acting role and what happens after 6 months period permissionable by the bill. Likewise, I concur with the committee report that certain instances such as medical leave and education leave should be permissionable by this bill. Madam Speaker, with a lot of humility, I would also wish to remind the leader of majority that putting an upper age limit in retirement is not against the Constitution, as indeed the current public service regulation provide for the same. Number two, also the bill has no intention of putting age limit to elective positions, as it intends to have a statutory limit of age for civil servants and not state officers. Finally, acting appointment by the Public Service Commission, because even as a country, we can't have a president who is acting. I would like to use this opportunity in trying to give hope to our youth that this house will continue making meaningful employment. At the same time, let's give hope to junior officers whose goal and aspiration in public service are to be promoted to the highest office possible. That this bill, by introducing succession planning, with those many remarks, I beg to reply. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Confirm the House is not properly constituted for me to be able to put the question. to the Public Service Commission. I do order that it is put in our order paper. Next order.
Order number 12, the national team.
Yes. Give him the mic.
The National Disaster Management Authority Bill of 2019 be now read a second time. Honorable Speakers, this bill principally seeks to create a coordinated or centralized way in which, as a country, we can deal and manage disasters in the country. As you are aware, Honorable Speaker, we have had several disasters ranging from flooding to fires in our urban centers and parts of our rural areas, including areas like the Savo that you have seen in the recent past, animals, to disasters like the terrorist attacks we've had in this country, Honorable Speaker. And I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, what instigated the thinking behind this bill, Honorable Speaker, was the Garissa terrorist attack. I think it's about 2 or 3 years ago. Honorable Speaker, I realized, in consultation with a few friends of mine, manage disasters in this country. At that time, Honorable Speaker, we lost about 144 young children, students at the University of Garissa. The bodies had to be transported from Garissa to Nairobi. And he told me one of the things that we were not able to do was a process of identifying those who had died and those who had survived the terrorist attack. And those who died, Honorable Speaker, unfortunately, those who lost their lives, their bodies were transported to Nairobi 2, 3, 4 days after their death. Garissa's temperatures at that time were close to 40 degrees Celsius, and bodies started decomposing in the hospital then. Honorable Speaker, by the time parents got to Nairobi, and I remember him narrating a story of a mother who sold her 2 sheep anywhere in Nairobi. She had to walk from Chiromo, where she goes to try and identify the bodies as who, and walk all the way to Nyayo Stadium, to and from Nyayo Stadium to Chiromo, either looking for a survivor in Nyayo Stadium or a body. Way of dealing with such disasters. The right thing would have been to fingerprint the bodies on the first day for those who lost their lives, take photographs, including the clothes people were wearing on that particular day, and the process of identifying bodies would have been quicker, and even notify relatives. And therefore, I realized that there was a huge gap in how we manage disasters. Look at the policies that we have, whether we have any policy, standard policy document on how to manage disasters, Honorable Speaker. And you realize both at the national level and even at the county level, and Schedule 4 of our Constitution, Honorable Speaker, gives this responsibility to both levels happen anywhere. And therefore, it's imperative that we have a centralized and coordinated manner in which we'll be able to manage disasters. And that was the thinking that informed this bill. So what this bill seeks to do, Honorable Speaker, is to establish a national disaster management authority that will coordinate all disaster preparedness, coordinate the formulation of a national policy and standards on how to deal with. The bill does recognize that this is a responsibility, Honorable Speaker, that is bestowed by the Constitution in both. Can be able to coordinate the management and coordination of disasters in the country between the 2 levels of government, and even be able to open offices for disaster management and coordination across the country in our different counties, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the function of the authority on Clause 5 of the bill, we seek to have the authority in liaison with the county governments to perform some of the following functions: to coordinate, to control the response to and management of disasters, to build capacity at both levels of government in crisis response and disaster resilience. And that's what I'm saying, Honorable Speaker. For instance, if there was capacity built in Garissa at the time, we would have had medical officers who are able to fingerprint bodies for those who have lost their lives, and be able to send those fingerprints to the national to notify the family well ahead of time, not punishing parents who have already lost their young ones to have to travel from Pokot and different parts of the country to come to Nairobi not knowing whether your child is alive or dead, and you are then punished. And I remember that lady narrating the story to the doctor, saying, "Get to Nairobi." She didn't have
money to be accommodated in Nairobi. Government had no means of coordinating where those relatives who come to identify bodies or identify that the Honorable Ishungwa know where do we accommodate these people as they come to Nairobi? How are we going to identify these bodies? How do we even offer transferred to Moi University in Eldoret? And the problems they had because there was even no meaningful counseling that was done with them. And therefore, we seek to establish a system where even, at least airlines, because they have the resources, they're able to have therapy sessions and counseling sessions for relatives and those who may be affected. But in disasters like floods, terrorist attacks like this, unless they are volunteers, Honorable Speaker, there is no way that is coordinated at the level of government. And therefore, we seek to be able to build capacity at both levels of government. Part of the function is to serve as a command center for all communication and information. Again, in times of disaster, environmental disasters, information also is quite important to be able to disseminate the right information from one command center relating to response operations. D is to coordinate disaster management efforts between various government agencies to ensure there is a terrorist attack. There was very uncoordinated response with the military coming into place and the police, and we even had cases where that is what we seek to do. It will also seek to establish, as I said, on issues like environmental disasters, the flooding in River Nyando, and an early warning mechanism and monitoring system. We don't have to wait until the disaster happens for us to be able to run there to rescue people. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, because of time, I seek to ask members to support this bill. It will help us both at the national and county levels of government. And as I said, we recognize in the bill that is a bill that will affect counties, and therefore I also want to take this opportunity to appeal. And I know there was a similar bill that had been published in the Senate, sponsored by the Honorable Sakaja, Senator Sakaja and Senator Mutula Kilonzo, to the third reading. And in that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the Honorable Member for Kiharu, Honorable Dindi Nyoro, to second.
The member for Kiharu, Honorable Dindi Nyoro, for seconding.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I rise to second the National Disaster Management Authority Bill 2019 as well. Madam Speaker, articulated, it just goes along the way, or it is just prudent for us to look for a cohesive way of responding to these disasters, Madam Speaker. Because as you know, some disaster, I want to highlight just a few points. Number one is that even in my constituency, just like many other members in this House, we have witnessed various manners of disasters. And Madam Speaker, for example, in Kiharu, over every single people, and especially people on the topographies that are quite steep, Madam Speaker, like some of the, especially citing the last disaster, that, Madam Speaker, in a ward called Murarandia in Kiharu, where people, Madam Speaker, the only thing that was availed to those victims were only food items, Madam Speaker, and a few non-food items, like mattresses. But these are people, Madam Speaker, who are victims of an emergency in terms of a landslide. Their land is destroyed. Their coffee plantations and their tea plantations are destroyed, and they have actually nowhere to build an abode for their children. And Madam Speaker, we just need to get serious, because there is no way a citizen of Kenya will only be a property of government when they are trying to commit suicide. But when they are undergoing problems, Madam Speaker, these are their personal problems, and the government leaves them to deal with them. We need to come up with a coordinated manner in which we help people during the tragedies, Madam Speaker, and even some of them up to date, they are hosted by their neighbors. And Madam Speaker, we just need a way to coordinate to help these kind of victims, Madam Speaker, so that they can have dignity that they had even before those disasters. But Madam Speaker, I also have to say that even as we deal with natural tragedies, like the disasters of last year, Corona, Madam Speaker, even as we deal with the natural ones, Madam Speaker, we need to have some dignity as a government and afford the people that we lead, Madam Speaker, comfort, and especially during such a time that you had during Corona, Madam Speaker. And because I can see my time is almost up, Speaker, so that we can be able to holistically handle the issues that the victims go to categorize Same way when the disaster happens. With those many remarks, I second.
Very well. Our members, with the bill having been moved and seconded, I propose the question, which is the National Disaster Management. I give the first chance to speak to the...
Or can be predicted. This country has had its share of disasters that indeed, from ordinary review, ordinary analysis, indicates that have been badly handled or badly coordinated. Probably the only disaster that in a history that seems to have been well coordinated was the terrorist attack on the Dusit Hotel sometimes. For example, the perennial flooding in Budalangi, the perennial flooding that affects part of my constituency of Funyula, the perennial flooding in Nyando, and the perennial landslide. You predict and see what will happen in the near future. That this country has failed to embrace. The government, both national and county, does not invest in those radio systems. For example, the Bulala FM that has got a station in Budalangi that provides is not adequately funded. We do hope that with now the formation of the Disaster Management Authority will accord this kind of local mechanisms to provide enough linkage or enough advance warning to avoid human loss and loss of property. Honorable Speaker, we must laud the Kenya Red Cross Society of Kenya for the wonderful job it has always done whenever there's a disaster. We must also allow one's plan and standing operating procedures that were inaugurated in 2014 for some semblance of order and organization in the management of disasters in this country. The bill, Honorable Speaker, provides a number of functions of the authority. My main point of concern is those functions assigned to the county government. Under the fourth schedule, part 2, function number 12 is about fire and disaster management. Honorable Speaker, we are 8 years into devolution, and I can say without a iota of doubt, management framework. We have no functioning firefighting system. Honorable Speaker, I truly wonder what magic the authority will use to ensure that the county governments have adequate mechanism, have got adequate infrastructure, have got adequate funding in this country. Honorable Speaker, the same fourth schedule in part 1, among the functions that are assigned to the national government is disaster management. We do hope the government that the functions listed under clause 5 of the bill are adequately and comprehensively executed by the authority. With those few remarks, I support the bill.
Very well. Let me have the member for Ungenya, the Honorable David Houma Ochieng. Yes, I saw him get to the consultation room. And the member for Nambale, Honorable Bunyasi.
Add my voice to the proposed bill on Disaster Authority Management Bill. First and foremost, I think it's one of the most important bills. I come from Garissa and in Tororo. And if it's a fire in town, by the time it gets there, it's gutted everything it can gut. So it's people with shovels and little water that will be trying to put out the fire. That is just in one extreme case. We have fairly recurrent problems like we have with the flooding, where hundreds of people are displaced and livelihoods completely, displacement, not just finding a blanket and sleeping environment has been changed. You don't know where your children are. The family is dispersed. The social systems are broken. There are a lot of issues. What happened in West Pokot recently, from what we saw in the media and in I think, Elgeyo Marakwet adjoining areas, was extremely serious. And we leave it to volunteer institutions, the treasured by government, but they're largely on their own, using their resources. That's okay. But it can't be that as a sovereign nation, that becomes entirely the face of what will happen in the country. Every life must matter. Otherwise, there's no need as a sovereign nation to claim your citizenship status if, in case of need, the sovereign state does not worry about you. There are limitations of budget. There could be limitations of budget. But let's have systems in place. Let us have systems in place which will enable us to evaluate might occur. Establishing this authority with clear responsibility lines, I think will be extremely, extremely useful. Madam Speaker, the other thing is that just 2 days ago, or was it last week, we were discussing about having emergency numbers established. It's a whole, what you talk about disaster is a whole system, an ecosystem of its own, that can then bring in not only, say, the telecommunications component and other institutional component, but a different hierarchy of decision making. That when you have a disaster, somebody takes some alternatives. The well-to-do might move on higher ground, or move into the city, or move away from where the disaster occurs. Those who are unable to move is because they truly are vulnerable. Maybe age, maybe disease, maybe level of poverty, level of income, and so on. And therefore, by definition, there is the category we need to be able to support. I support this proposed bill. We can be able to expand its scope somewhat during the time that as we go forward. With those few remarks, I strongly support.
Very well. The member for Kiamba, Honorable Koinange Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the main objective of the National Disaster Management Authority
And
bill.
Honorable Koinang,
Yeah.
member for Kiamba, being the chair, you can utilize your 10 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Is to establish a centralized system of responding to and managing disasters in the country. And Madam Speaker, it is important to note that response to the disasters in Kenya has been uncoordinated and has resulted to production of more harm in the society. Madam Speaker, I really want to thank such groups like Red Cross and the girls who have stood in the gap even without an organized disaster management authority. Madam Speaker, this bill therefore addresses the issue by establishing a National Disaster Management Authority which will liaise with national and county governments and other agencies with regard to response to disasters in the country. Madam Speaker, the National Disaster Management Authority Bill 2019 was read the first time on 3rd April 2019 and subsequently committed to my committee pursuant to Standing Order 127(1) for review and report to the House. The committee considered the bill in its sitting held on Friday, 16th August 2019, and adopted its report on Tuesday, 22nd October 2019. Madam Speaker, in accordance to Article 118 of the Constitution and Standing Order 127, the committee sought views from the public by way of written memoranda. The committee received views from the Council of Governors and the Disaster Mitigation Professionals Association. And Madam Speaker, the committee noted the following. 1, the bill seeks to establish an act of parliament to provide for establishment of a National Disaster Management Authority. And second, Madam Speaker, that disaster management is a shared function assigned in the 4th schedule of the Constitution to both levels of the government. Paragraph 24 of Part 1 of the schedule assigns the function to the national government, whereas paragraph 12 of the Part 2 assign the same function to the county government. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, the bill does not provide for a clear framework on the exact functions of the counties. It ought to be exhaustive enough to assign roles to the counties. It should provide a wider legal framework on how disaster management should be done and well coordinated and also well equipped. Also, Madam Speaker, the bill does not provide for what magnitude of disasters can be resolved by the counties. And finally, Madam Speaker, the bill does not provide for who should be the first informer, who should be the immediate respondent to a disaster, save the disasters occasioned by terrorism. And Madam Speaker, the committee has proposed amendments to the bill to take into consideration the observations. Madam Speaker, I really want to thank Honorable Ishongwa for this particular very noble bill. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I would like to ask all the honorable members to read the report of the committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. And I must also thank the Honorable Koinange, the Chairperson, Administration and National Security, where the bill falls. Having looked at the bill in details and also us being able to consult, and I can see you will consult more with the chair, with the mover, the owner of the bill, Honorable Ichungwa. Let me have the member for Siaya, Honorable Duaro back.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I think this bill is very timely because we have many disasters in this country, starting from the bomb blast, fires from tractors, fires in the school. We have lake disasters where canoes also, capsize, and so many of them. If we do not have an authority like this one, we will never be able to manage them because there will be more coming. We have not finished with them. They continue to come, and we never know when they will come. So we need to be prepared. We need an authority such as this one to help us in the management of disasters. We have seen how disasters have been managed in this country, not really very nice. The timing is poor. When it is a disaster, it's an emergency. And we need to rush, because when it is an emergency, you cannot waste time. But we always are caught unawares where we take too long to help the victims. Therefore, the services that we render is too little, coming too late. And the victims do suffer a lot more. I expect this authority to do a lot. First of all, they need to devolve once it is established, so that every county can manage and can also have a board that manages disasters at the county level. We may even go further down to the constituencies, because they do happen anyway, and we need to have money all the time. So funds we need to devolve them so that we have authorities going right up to the grassroots. Then we need funds to be put in place so that we do not have a problem with funding or rushing to the scene or having vehicles, having petrol to reach to where an incident of disaster has taken place. But you will see that we are never prepared, funds are never there, we take too long to respond, and the victims suffer, some die along the way when their lives can be saved. I really want to support this because there's a lot that can be done, and we can save lives when there is a disaster. I just want to also add my voice to this, and also another point that is important to consider is the training of those who manage disasters. People are not well trained, and they are scared themselves when they are approaching a disaster scene, and they want to back out so that they run away, simply because they are not well trained, they are also not well armed, and they do not have the right clothing or what can protect them as well. And lastly, victims also need to be cared for in terms of psychological trauma, Their health is needed to be taken care of, and everybody needs to be made ready to be aware that a disaster can befall us any other time. In the school system, when I was a student in a boarding school, we were trained on disaster management. We were little girls, but we were taught. So even at school level, we need to start thinking about training, and so therefore, this authority should do much more, should put in place a lot more that will address disaster in this country. Otherwise, thank the committee that has come up with it, and also support this bill to the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Very well. Let me have the nominated 001, Ole Sankok David.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to inject my voice in this particular very important bill, especially that when disaster strike, those who suffer most are persons with disabilities. Honorable Speaker, let me start by thanking Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah for coming up with a very progressive idea. Honorable Speaker, this is the members of parliament we really need in this house, because, Honorable Speaker, it will solve a lot of issues. Honorable Speaker, because it is really shameful that 60 years after independence, we cannot be able to respond to even minor disasters like car accidents, Honorable Speaker. We cannot respond to droughts that can be predicted, to floods that can be predicted by the weatherman, Honorable Speaker, let alone those very major disasters that we cannot predict, like terrorist attacks and such issues, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I will not dwell so much on what we need to address in this Disaster Management Authority, Honorable Speaker, and this Disaster Management Bill, Honorable Speaker, but I will dwell so much on the issue affecting persons with disability, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as persons with disability, whenever there is disaster, we are affected most. And we are affected, Honorable Speaker, in two ways. One, our numbers will eventually increase because of those who will be maimed, those who will be affected by the accidents, Honorable Speaker, and by disaster, who become persons with disability and start competing with us for the little resources that the government have allocated to us, Honorable Speaker. So on daily basis, we are praying as persons with disability so that we don't have disasters, so that our numbers cannot increase, so that they don't add up, so that we compete with the little resources allocated to us by the government, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are also affected the second way, Honorable Speaker, by the fact that most of those that respond to disaster have not internalized the need of persons with disability, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, our laws set disaster response measures, like when there is fire, there is a siren that will go on, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are those who cannot be able to hear that siren. We have not factored that issue, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when there is fire, we are told don't use the lift, use the staircases, Honorable Speaker. We have not factored those on wheelchairs like Honorable Dandita Kati and Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, who cannot be able to use those staircases, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are told in the aeroplane, whenever there is any disaster, Honorable Speaker, there is a lighting system to show you the exit route, Honorable Speaker. We have not factored those who are blind, who are not able to see the exit route that is illuminated by lighting, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we rarely consider persons with disability when we are having these particular disaster management rules, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and today Kimani Ichung'wah have come up with this particular bill, Honorable Speaker. I want to tell him that we should sit down and include the views of persons with disability in this particular bill so that we can enrich when we go to public participation, Honorable Speaker. Let us have persons with disability also participate, because nothing about us without us. If we are on the table, Honorable Speaker, we'll bring issues that will be able to add value to this particular bill and to be able to save our persons with disability, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, lastly, on the training issue, Honorable Speaker, because we cannot just be able to respond to disaster without a proper trained people who are trained to respond in a manner that will not cause more disaster, Honorable Speaker. Because we have seen people responding to fire disaster and they end up burning themselves, Honorable Speaker. We need proper training mechanism starting from primary school, secondary school, and going forward, Honorable Speaker, so that we can be able to respond to disaster, Honorable Speaker, in a more coordinated manner. It is shameful that even individuals like Nakode are the one responding to disaster like floods and droughts, not a government that is given the authority by the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I do support.
You do support. Let me have the member for Kwanza. That is the next one, my request list.
Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank Honorable Ichungwa for bringing up a bill. To me, I think it's one of the most important bills I've seen in this August House. Mheshimiwa, that is very well thought of. I think it's something that nobody has thought about it, and I want to thank the member for having come up with this, because as it is, Madam Speaker, it is one of the best bills we have. First and foremost, there's no coordination at all in this country. When you have a disaster, all manner of bodies come around, busy bodies, what have you, the youth. Look at what's happened in Savo National Park, where there's fire. I was watching the TV and I got embarrassed because people are just running around with the leaves, branches, trying to put up the fires at National Park in Savo. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I also want to say this because I think among a few Kenyans who actually experienced the tsunami in the East. I was on duty in Malaysia, and Madam Speaker had a very, very bad experience. But before that, there was a warning. And even the wild animals, that the baboons and even the elephants had that early warning, and they moved to the higher grounds. The human beings, we just had an alert a day or two. In fact, that evening, when I was supposed to be traveling back to Kenya, we had that thing, and I don't want to tell the story of what happened, but I can tell you that the early warnings is important. We want to have a disaster authority that will be able to monitor, even if it means using the animals, and they are very good at it, even the chicken. They make certain noise that will be able to warn you that something abnormal is coming. And that's exactly what happened when I was in the Far East, in Malaysia to be exact, in an island called Penang. And I can't tell you the rest of the story here. But it's important that to be able to have the central disaster management authority. And Madam Speaker, as we establish that, we should be able to have even a specific communication numbers. We have 999, 999 for the police. Do we have that for disasters? It's nothing. If anything happened, this particular building, maybe because we are in Nairobi, it will be different. But elsewhere, it will be very disastrous. Madam Speaker, I want to give an example. Recently, we had a landslide in West Pokot. And look at it. The slides that you saw, I managed because I was around there and I took some sympathy. But you go, the so-called, you can't believe. People died. Some people were found miles away because they were swept by the floods. And there was nothing you could do. You would have just people who are not even trained. And therefore, as we establish this particular important thing that has been brought by my man, I respect so much, Mr. Honorable Ichungwa, let's have even people trained and exposed. Have regular drilling. Today, we are here in this house. If anything happened, I can tell you, you'll see people hitting each other, running up and down, don't even know what to do, because we have not been able to be drilled. I've been here for the last 8 years, and I've never had an authority from the authority here saying, man, if anything happened here, Member of Parliament, this is what we should do. Nothing. And we are lawmakers of this country. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I want us to go further. And when it comes to the third reading of this particular bill, let's give ourselves time, the whole day, to be able to put in as much as we can, experiences and what have you, and what we think outside the box to be able to have this bill passed. And I think establishment of this management disaster authority should be yesterday, and not tomorrow, and not even today. I want to thank you, Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah, for having come up with this. I support it.
Very well. Let me have the Honorable Member for Lamu.
Asante Bi Speaker kunipatia na mimi nafasi hii nami nichangie kwa msaada huu. Mswada wa usimamizi wa majanga. Nimefurahi sana Mheshimiwa kuleta huu mswada. Ni mswada ambao utasaidia Kenya nzima. Mswada huu umelenga mambo mengi, tuseme mambo ya moto, mafuriko, hata kule kwetu kwa bahari. Mimi ningependa hata pengine iwekwe hapo au iwe na kiwango fulani cha mgao kutoka serikali kuu kiwe hapo. Kama ni 20%, 10%, manake itasaidia pakubwa Kenya na tutaweza kuendelea kwa mipango ya maendeleo. Kwa hakika kuna majanga ambayo hutokea na huwa yanatokea kila baada ya muda na bado hatujitayarishi na wala hatusomi. Kwa mfano mafuriko. Tunajua miezi fulani kuna mafuriko, lakini huwa hatujitayarishi. Kuna sehemu za bahari kama Lamu, tunajua miezi fulani bahari inakuwa chafu sana. Majanga hutokea, pengine hata tsunami. Maji yakapanda mpaka yakaenda katika manyumba za watu. Na tunajua hili linajiregelea, lakini huwa hatujitayarishi. Mswada huu utakuwa umeweza kutoa suluhisho ya majanga haya. Na kitu kinasikitisha ni kwamba ikiwa kuna kampuni, hata kampuni kubwa au mradi mikubwa katika hizo sehemu, mfano Lapset, katika mambo ya bahari wafaa wajitolelee kabla ule mradi kuendelea, at least waweke hicho kitengo ambao kitakuwa kikisaidia kukitokea kama majanga. Lakini utaona hakuna, na ingekuwa kwao ni rahisi sana, wanaweza kufanya kitu kama hiyo. Watu wanakufa wakati huo, watu wanapata shida, watu wanabidi saa nyingine mpaka wakatae kwenda kwa bahari. Lakini kama kulikuwa na njia ya kuweza kuwasaidia, wangekuwa wanaendelea na maisha yao ya kawaida. Watu wanapotea, wanaenda baharini wanapotea, majanga yanatokea kila aina, na kampuni kubwa kama hizo ziko hapo na haziwezi kutusaidia. So mswada huu utasaidia sana. Mafuriko vile vile kaunti kama ya Lamu majanga yote yako. Ikiwa ni yale ya kusababishwa na terrorist yako. Watu wanakuwa wanahamishwa makwao. Sana wodi ya Basubu wanahamishwa huwa na inajiregelea, lakini tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kutoka kwa sahihi iko vizuri. Ukienda upande wa mainland ambayo ni Wito wodi ya Wito, sana mafuriko. Kila mwaka mafuriko. Siku zote sisi uteta na Kengen. Lakini tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu siku hizi wanaingilia vizuri. Upande ikiwa pengine hata ukame pia huwa uko. Sasa haya mambo yako mengi yanajiregelea, huwa ni kama ni aibu. Kitu kinajiregelea na tunajua kitakuwa, lakini hakutukui action yoyote. So mswada huu utasaidia pakubwa, tunaunga mkono sana. At least ngalau watu wetu wapate kusaidika. Asante Bi Speaker.
Asante sana kwa Kiswahili sanifu. Let me have the Honorable Member for Matungulu, Honorable Mule Mutinda.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. First and foremost, I want to thank my brother and my friend, Honorable Ichung'wah, for bringing up this noble bill to this House. Madam Speaker, I want to say that Honorable Ichung'wah, thanks for this disaster management bill, because as you know, in this country, the disaster managers are MPs. The moment a disaster happens, the first call and point of call is members of parliament. And I think it is the high time we delink ourselves from being the disaster management managers in this country and give it an authority which can take care of Kenyans, Madam Speaker. It is important, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Mule, even as you're doing a very good work, even your contribution, I can hear the members they're appreciating you. Please, can you put on your mask?
Madam Speaker, with your indulgence, you will allow me not to use the mask because I'm just alone here.
No. You
Okay.
never know. That is the directive, yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to say, Madam Speaker, when I've gone through this bill, Madam Speaker, I can assure Honorable Ichung'wah.
I can hear Honorable Member for, is it Nyando, speak about disaster in his place and say you are alone. I'm also alone here and I'm already carry on.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know the COVID disaster is much more than what we are talking about. But, Madam Speaker, what I want to assure Honorable Ichung'wah is that we are going to enrich this bill during the time when we are going for the third reading and make sure that all the areas are captured. Madam Speaker, it is saddening when we know very well we are going to the rain season. And especially in Matungulu constituency, the lower part of it whereby we border the Athi River, that is Cheleni ward. We are aware that every time of rain we have to relocate people to the higher grounds. And at the end of the day, the only people who have come to assist us is the Red Cross and the police sometimes, Madam Speaker. So through this bill, Madam Speaker.
Member for Funyula, you've just heard me tell the honorable members. I don't know whether you're, yes, please let us put on our masks. Let us protect the other members. Carry on, Honorable Muli.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm saying that in the lower part of Matungulu, we know very well during the rain season, it floods. And the only people who come to rescue my people is either the police or Red Cross. It is the high time we have this authority to make sure that we are able to, as leaders, we have a point of call. We delink ourselves from becoming the point of call for any disaster. Madam Speaker, this is a very important authority. If you look at developed countries, that is Germany, America, UK, they know how to manage their disaster issues, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think it's a wake-up call for this country. We make sure that we work for the people. We do the best for this country to ensure that what Honorable Sangoka said, he doesn't want the increased number of people who have been made during disasters so that the kitty for the people living with disability is not exhausted, Madam Speaker. So this is a very important bill, and I would wish to urge the leadership of this House to make sure that we fast-track even this bill faster so that it can go to the Senate. And I want to urge our senators, they keep their differences aside and pass this bill as quickly as possible, and so that we can be passed and ascended by the President, so that we can come up with clear framework how the authority will operate at the national level, at the county level, and we can even go down to the constituency level, Madam Speaker. As I said, members of this House have become disaster managers at any given time. And we want to do things differently. This is an era whereby we must do things differently. We must appreciate the work of all the agencies, but they must be put in an orderly manner, Madam Speaker, so that this country can move forward. I support, and I want to sit with Ichung'wah. I've looked at the areas whereby we need to do some amendments. We'll bring the amendments, which are very noble, and make sure that we move with speed, and ask Senate, please, this one bill which should not even stay in your house even a day. If you are meeting once a week, please provide an extra day to meet for this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well said, very well said. It is true that you can sit with the Honorable, and that the members of parliament, they have become disaster managers. Let me appreciate the interest by Honorable Member for Ruiru, who wanted to speak to this, the interest by the member for Funyula, who really wanted to contribute to this, member for Nyando, who wanted to contribute to this, and the member for Daragwa, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, who really wanted to. But because of interest of time, the House has been 1 hour and 38 minutes. So members, you can get ready and prepare for this. And the time being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today, the Thursday, 8th October 2020 at 2:30 p.m.
Yes.